Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog, Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 800 stand-up comedians over the past 46 years and counting. My very special guest today is the great comedian, Mr. Rich Wilson. Yes! Hello, mate! How are you?
Oh, hello, mate. How are you? You're right.
I'm all right.
Good, man.
How are you?
Good. I'm all right. We have to start these every time I do these. We have to start it with, "Can you hear me all right? Do I sound all right? Is it all right?" That's
I can hear you if you can hear me.
I can hear you, mate. I can hear you. It's all good. It's all good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to chat for about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's all about your comedy career. So I'd like to go right back to the start and ask you, how did you become a comedian?
Well, this has been, I've talked about this before, but I never in my wildest dreams ever thought I was going to be a comedian. I never, growing up, I always loved comedy and I admired people like Dave Allen and Richard Pryor and people like that, Eddie Murphy and people like that. But I'm fundamentally quite a shy person, so it never occurred to me that I was ever going to do it. Like everyone always, like they say that thing, it's the hardest thing in the world. The thought of standing in front of people and trying to make them laugh just filled me with so much terror. Like I can't even now, I can't make phone calls. I can't ring people up and go, yeah, I hate it. I have to do text or emails. It was like,
wow.
But,
are you all right doing this?
Yeah, this is fine. Now, this is, I can do this. This is fine. I don't mind doing this.
Yeah.
But when I have to ring like the bank or something like that.
Well, nobody likes that.
No, it takes me a day to like get myself ready. I'm 49. I should be able to do it by now. So it never really occurred to me to be a comedian. I always loved it, and so I got a job 20 years ago now. 20 years up the creek.
Yes.
There was an advert, and it needed bar staff. I'm like, I've pulled a pint before. I like comedy. I'll go and do that. So I rang him up, and the guy, it was Andrew, one of the owners, and he just went, right, come and see me tomorrow. So I turn up. He takes me through what Up the Creek used to look like, to the back bar, and he's like, right, that's the bar. Can you pull a pint? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. He went, all right, we'll start tomorrow then. And I was starting on the Saturday.
Wow.
And he went, well, this is where the comedy is. It's in here. If you want to hang around and just watch the comedy, you're more than welcome. And I think Daniel Kitson was emceeing.
Oh, what an act.
And so I only knew famous, really television comedians. I didn't know that there was this whole circuit of 1,000 or thousands of other comedians.
Yeah.
So I'm watching Daniel Kitson, who I didn't know was was going to be one of the finest comedians of his generation. And it just straight away, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And
it is
I just sort of fell into it. Yeah. I just fell into it.
My first ever gig, aged 7, with my mum and dad and my brother, was Les Dawson at Scarborough,
which is brilliant. Les Dawson,
and he's in my top 5 still. He's hilarious. And in the same year, I saw Tommy Cooper, which was just amazing.
Another one, yeah.
And my first gig in London, the first time I ever went to the Comedy Store in London, when I first came to London, was Steve Gribbin, who's been interviewed.
Oh, no, yeah. Steve, he's great.
John Maloney was compere.
Wow.
Linda Smith, Hattie Hayridge, and topping the bill was Charles Fleischer. Now, you might not know who Charles Fleischer is, but Charles Fleischer is an American comedian who used to pull faces, very visual.
Right.
And I'm so pleased I saw him because he went to Hollywood and was the voice of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, wow.
So he was never seen again.
I was going to say, what happened to him? No, he took the rest of his life off.
Yeah. So you decide you want to become a comedian, and you love it. So you're in the you're at Up the Creek, which I've been to
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
And how can you describe your first gig?
Yes. So it was my mate Silky, who's another comedian.
I've heard of it.
And
Yeah.
he's Leeds based.
Yeah.
And he and I became friends. And yeah, he said to me, he was one. It was Rob Rouse first said, "You should do it. You've got it in you." And I was like, I don't know. And then I mentioned it to Silky. And then one day we were sat in this shitty bar in Maidstone, and he went, "Right, you've got your first gig. It's on this date. It's in 2 months' time, and you can't back out."
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't want to do it. And he went, you have to do it. He goes, "We keep talking about it. You're going to do it. And this is when it is." So I spent 2 months shitting my pants. I was so full of dread.
Wow.
And I had this little book, and I was writing ideas down, and I'm just crapping myself. I'm on the train going. It was in Oxford, the Bullingdon. Which now I think it's now Oxford Glee.
Yeah.
And I'm on the way there, and I'm shitting my pants. And I'm like, oh God! Oh, that was it. Silky was living in Banbury at the time. That was it. He was living in Banbury, so I had to get the train to Banbury, and I was there with I don't know if you know Jason Cook.
Yes, very well. Yeah.
Jason Cook and what's his? I can't remember his name. That's terrible of me. They were a double act, a German synth pop band called Die Klatterschenken Fledermaus. And and they got this brilliant song called Dead Clown, and it was really good.
Brilliant.
So I end up at Silky's, and I'm with them, and I'm sat there. Lee, his name's Lee. And I'm sat there, and I'm sat around with them, and we're talking about. This is a whole new world to me, so I don't know what I'm doing. And then we get to the gig. The Die Klatterschenken Fledermaus, they die. But they're brilliant. I thought they were brilliant. I loved them. And then and then Silky had said to me, it's called something law, where if it's going well, if it's going badly, get off. If it's going well, get off. Now you know that. But it's called someone's law. So I'm on. I'm pacing up and down. I'm crapping myself. I have 2 vodka Red Bulls, doubles. I'm just a bag of nerves. I've got this leather jacket on. I'm dripping sweat. And then I walk on. I'm supposed to do 5 minutes, and I did 2.5. I did this crappy sex joke that it was rubbish, but it got a bit of a laugh. And then I stood there and I went, and then Silky over the PA just went, blah, blah, so law, like, that law. And I went, see you later. And I got off. And he went, you've got to laugh then. You've got to laugh. So you're going to be the resident open spot. You're going to come back every month, and you're going to be the new guy. And that's where it went. Yeah, so it just started from that. So I was doing Oxford, and then we did Banbury as well.
Wow.
And then he booked me for loads of his Welsh gigs. So I really started my career in Wales. So
what sort of year was this?
That was 2004, October 2004.
Wow.
That's when I started up the creek in 2001.
Right.
I was a barman.
Yeah.
I went on to be a manager. They had one in Croydon, they had one in Maidstone. They've both gone now.
Yeah.
But I managed those, and then the woman that I was seeing at the time, Marilyn, she was running up the creek, Croydon. She basically ran it when I was there, to be honest. I mean, she was the brains behind the outfit. I didn't really know what I was doing, but and then she took it over when I left. And they were going to shut it on a Friday. And she said, well, why don't you keep it open, get Rich to MC it for cheap, and then you get established acts either end, new acts in the middle, so you're keeping your money low, and then you get to stay open. So I did that for about a year.
Wow.
So because I was doing that, I was like MCing up the creek, basically. So other people would go, oh, you're MCing up the creek. Oh, you can come and do this. So I ended up doing the backyard. I ended up doing the comedy cafe, jonglers. So I kind of sidestepped that open mic circuit. I did a couple of them. But I kind of hit the ground running and went straight in MCing.
Wow. That's amazing, because normally, or a very good route in is through the open mic circuit where you do your 5 minutes. And I'm inevitably a friend of the comedian who is asked to go along and laugh in all the right places, and if they're good. So you didn't tend to do many of those because you already were getting the experience of being in a major comedy club, emceeing it.
I did that classic one. There was one in Hammersmith that I did.
Yeah.
Everybody there was an act. There were 3 old blokes at the bar, and a classic and a dog. Honestly, I've heard it. Honestly, there was an actual dog. I think it belonged to the pub. I'm not sure, but the first act went on. He made some joke about Irish people. The 3 guys at the bar were Irish, it turns out. So they've all moved around the other side of the bar.
Oh, mate.
They've gone, and then even the dog went nah, and just went off.
You reminded me of when I had a go at stand-up. I was terrified as well. I was at the Edinburgh Fringe, which we'll come on to later, and I knew at the time the guy who ran the Free Fringe, and I said to him, I want to get it out of my system. I support all the comedians, and I want to have a go at doing stand-up. He said, right. He said, we can put you on an old folks gig in the Haymarket. It's a gong show, and you'll have 3 minutes and see how long you last. So I wrote this script all about me crashing cars in Carlisle because I was never a very good driver, and he liked it. He said, go on then. So I walked out, and there was 3 old blokes sitting there, 3 again. And I walked out and I said, ladies and gentlemen, people think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, but I can't see the resemblance myself, which I thought was a brilliant opening line. And an old bloke at the back just went, fuck off, and gunned me off. So I walked off to my own footsteps, went back on, had another go. Same thing happened, and I said, I don't know about stand-up comedy. I said, I'll support them forevermore, but I'll never say never again. But so in a way, that's why a reason why the blogs come along, supporting you all. I regard you all as heroes because I'm passionate about the subject.
You are very supportive. It's always a pleasure to see your face. Be it Always Be, or be it online or in Edinburgh. That's the one. When you pop up in Edinburgh and you're like, wow.
Oh, yeah. So you're happily emceeing away. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any themes or
anything really? I think I'm more cheeky than I am controversial.
Yeah.
I get away with a bit more because I am kind of like cheeky. Like, I'll say something that's a bit naughty and then I'll put a face and I'm like, that was a bit much, wasn't it? That kind of thing. I'm not really out to I don't really want to be a controversial comedian.
No,
I just want to, I want to have fun, and you can take the mickey out of stories in the news and things like that. But I just see it as like we're jesters, and people come to us to get away from all the stuff that's going on in the news. And I mean, there are some brilliant political comedians out there, and they're brilliant at what they do. But I've seen it a few times, especially now when there's so much politics. Social media is awash with everyone's got an opinion on everything, and you're just hammered into the floor with story after story of atrocity and this and that. Yeah. And people come to a comedy club to get away from all that. And so that's where I come in. I'm like, I'll come out with my pointy shoes and my balloons and I'll dance around for you for a bit. Just it's that's our job.
One of the great things that you do is you're extremely warm with an audience, so they can't fail not to like you, and then because of that you can really basically say to them what you like because they're on your side. You're very, very good at audience banter, and I think you're one of the best at it. I really do.
Thanks, man.
Whenever your name's on a bill, I always smile because I know I'm going to have a good time.
But I still feel that I'm not above the audience. There's that talk about what do you call it? It begins with a P. Jesus Christ, like, my brain's rubbish. When you're sort of you're elevated above the audience.
Yeah.
But that I don't really feel like that. I feel I'm the funniest one out of everybody. That's why I'm up there doing what I'm doing. But I don't feel like I still feel like a punter sometimes.
Watching from the audience, what I notice is whenever it's like a switch goes on when you go on stage, and you think to yourself, right, I am not leaving this stage until I've made the audience laugh. Depending on, it doesn't matter what size it is. Every time I've seen you, they're not only laughing, they're crying with laughter. Because it's all nice. And you've got a great delivery, and you're very good with I don't know what the term is, where you finish a punchline and then you add another line to it.
Oh, a topper. A topper. But there aren't any. That's the thing with what I do. I don't feel there's no structure really to what I do. I'm just going up there and I'm talking, but it's the way I'm just like someone said. It sounds like the funny guy in the pub. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what I want. I want it to sound like I'm just coming up and I'm just talking. I'm having a chat with you for 20 minutes.
That's it. There's something more to just a bog standard comic going on and telling jokes. You're very endearing. You want to go and have a beer with you afterwards.
Yeah.
There's that element of something more other than comedy, which makes you very warm to an audience. And I notice that every time I see you.
Thanks, mate. Well, I think that comes from the fact I got into comedy late. And so I've had jobs where, I haven't always done comedy. So I've done, for want of a better phrase, proper jobs. I've lived that proper life. So, I understand where these people are coming from. They've come from work, they're knackered, they've got bills to pay, they're worried about money, and, but they've managed to scrape a few quid together. They're at a comedy night and they're going to have a night. And I understand exactly where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And I love to, this routines I've got, I love coming out of that and reacting to what's going on in the room. I get a real buzz from that. And I've learned that from watching Kitson. I watched Kitson go on with an empty book.
Yeah.
And then he fills the book up as he's on stage, Yeah. I remember saying to Mike Wilmot, the Canadian comic,
brilliant,
I'm like, I remember, mate, I just love the way you just come out and start talking.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to do that. And he said, so fucking do it then. And I went, And it kind of had this moment, you don't have to come out and go, hello. You don't have to go.
Just do it.
I feel, even though I said to you earlier, I am fundamentally shy inside. And that's only with certain things in life, but I'm at my most comfortable when I'm up in front of everybody and we're all bouncing along together doing this thing.
Yeah.
And we're all in it together. We're like, this is what we're doing for 20 minutes. Where are we going? What should we do? Because I don't have to worry about bills and real life. I'm out of it for 20 minutes. It's lovely.
So you're emceeing the gigs or doing routines at gigs, and you must have had, although I can't imagine, some bad gigs, some bad experiences at gigs. Have you got any stories?
Yeah. You cannot call yourself a comedian if you haven't died on your ass. I'm sorry. It's all part of it. You have to have that stony silence. You have to have that. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. You might have been in a good mood on the way to the gig, but for some reason you haven't connected. It's just, I did. Yeah, I had one recently before the lockdown, and I hadn't really connected. I won't say what I called the guy because I did it by mistake. I said a terrible word. I meant to say something, and I meant to call him a bell end, and I called him something else, and the room just went, what? And I went, what? Why did I say that? I'm making it sound worse than it is. It was just, it wasn't good. No. And I won him back in the end, but not great.
No.
But I think the worst one. I was in Birmingham. And I was in Leeds once, right? And there was a load of florists in the front, and they were all fellas. And I hadn't been going very long, so I took the piss because I didn't know any better. I like, oh, you're a florist, you like your flowers, right? And one of them got so angry with me, he hated me. So every time I walked out to MC, he'd stand up and go, shite! And then he'd turn his chair around, right, and plonk it down with his back to me for the whole thing.
Wow.
And then he did that all night. But by the end, he got so annoyed. But the audience ended up being on my side.
Well, there you are, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. But there was one that made me realise you have to be really careful with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what other people have been through.
No.
You know, and I used to have this stuff talking about when we were growing up and about the sex offenders that used to run around. I mean, you might have heard it. And I made a joke about it, and then I moved on. And then we had the interval, and then after the interval, there was a guy stood sort of at the side of the stage, and I'm like, "You're right, mate. You're going to take your seat." And he came on, and he took the mic off me, and he went, "How comes?" When it was horrible, and he went, "How comes we can't make jokes?" And he used the N word, and he used something else.
Wow.
He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But we can't. But taking the mickey out of people that have been sexually assaulted is fine." And I'm like, and I took it off him, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what happened. I was taking the piss out of paedophiles. I wasn't taking the piss out of people that have been sexually abused. I'd never do that. You haven't listened to what I'm saying. Anyway, he got ushered off and he got taken away. So anyway, brought the headline act out, and I'm like, I've got to find that fella because that's not what happened. Anyway, I went out and I found him, and he's in the foyer and he's with his wife. Well, he's now his ex-wife. I didn't really understand the relationship, but he's got his head in his hands and he's crying, and I'm like, whoa, dude, this is what's going on, man? What is it? He starts to tell me this horrific story about when he was a kid.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I was on my knees with him, and I'm like, mate, listen, I wasn't having a go at people that have been sexually assaulted. And he went, I know. He goes, it wasn't you. He goes, I've had a drink, and it's just something I still, and it really triggered him. And so we sat, and I was talking to him the whole time. And then it made me realise that, you got to be more careful with what you say.
You got to be very careful.
Yeah, because you don't know people's stories.
No.
And unfortunately, now having had conversations going forward, there's more people have been. This is a bit heavy for this, but
please no.
But loads more people have unfortunately been sexually assaulted than haven't, and so if you're getting into those subjects, you've got to be really careful and know what you're doing. You know, make it very clear that you're not having a go at what they've been through, you know. That was a turning point. That made me realise.
I think it is. I think because a comedian, once they're on stage, they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
They do have to be very careful in the subject matter that they've got, because everybody in the audience, as you say, is different. And they could be tapping into something really quite serious, like you've just been talking about. But you don't know people's stories, and no. And they don't. You know, like I say, you could say anything, and it might trigger someone, and off they go. And so that's why I try and keep it. I really make it clear that I'm having a laugh, and I'm not. It taught me a lot. I think as well. Through all the good and the bad times of stand-up comedy, all the difficult gigs, it does boil down to the more you do, the more experience you get at doing it, and
absolutely,
and you become, if nothing else, a better speaker, a better communicator, standing on stage. And if you can make them laugh, obviously, which is the main reason why you're there, all the better.
Yeah. But the best. I mean, and the thing is, nobody wants to hear stories about you smashing it. No one wants to hear about you taking the river. Everyone wants to hear it when you sucked ass. Everyone wants to hear. And the tough gigs, the ones where you die the hardest, are always the ones that are furthest away from your house. So you got all this. You got hours on the drive on the way home, and you're like, it's horrible. Just going over.
Driving along, thinking, why am I good? So,
but Sarah Millican's got this really good rule, And she said, like, you can beat yourself up and think about it, but you've only got until 11 a.m. the next day. After that, you've got to move on.
The next day, and you start.
Yeah. Start again.
So, whilst you were doing your comedy at Up the Creek, was there ever a point where you thought, yes, I'm good at this, and I can do this, and I can make a career out of this?
I think. Do you know what it was? It wasn't really Up the Creek. You've heard stories of imposter syndrome. Everyone talks about imposter syndrome. They feel like they're going to get found out any minute. I was doing the Comedy Store, and it took me 7 years to get into the store. Wow. They weren't gonna book me. They said I wasn't for them. I wasn't good enough. Blah, blah, blah. They weren't horrible. They were just, that's how it was. But I went on tour with Tom Stade.
Oh, yeah,
and Tom Stade, and that was they were his agent. And so every day he'd speak to them, and every day he'd say, put Rich on. They go, no, we've tried. It doesn't really work. And he's like, look, he's doing well on this tour. I want you, give him a go. And so they did. They gave me a Thursday to MC, and it couldn't have gone better. Like, immediately.
Brilliant.
It was one of those ones. I've been told since that I went on. I made a joke straight away. Don walked in at that particular moment and went, "Yeah, give him weekends." It was that perfect.
Brilliant.
But even then, with the store, you never feel like you're quite in. Right? You always, because it's such the Comedy Store was it. It was like, for a lot of older comedians, like our church, and you always wanted to be in that place.
Yeah.
And so you're always nervous when you play.
Well, anyway, it is one of the most
the place.
Prestigious places to play, isn't it?
Yeah. And I remember I've been there a couple of times now, and it's on a Thursday night, and I go out and do my bit. It's not great. The audience are a bit cold. I don't really warm up enough, but I do a bit of material, and they're all right, and they kind of loosen. Then the first act goes on, and it kind of starts to thaw out a little bit. And then Simon Mason, the big Simon from the store, there's two of them. There's Simon Mason, and I can't tell what my names, and the other Simon. And he came through and he went, "Rich, listen, they're not doing you a favour by booking you to be here. You're here because you're good at what you do. You're good at this. This is why you're here. So stop mucking around and fucking get on with it." and that's when it clicked for me. I went, "Oh yeah, people aren't booking me as a favour.
Exactly.
They're booking me because I can do what I do." And that's when I went, right, yeah, I am actually good at this. This is me. So,
that's
it's not big-headed or arrogant.
No.
I just like, I know I can do it. I can do it.
And you think, I know I can do this. Yeah. So, how do you cope with any nerves before you go on stage? Do you still get them?
Yeah. It's not nerves. I don't shit myself unless it's massive. If it's a big deal gig. Yeah. Like, I'm doing massive gigs. I remember supporting Jade for her Amazon Prime special when they were filming that. That was a big deal. So it was kind of like, I can't fuck this up. This is, I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to let anyone else down. I just wanted to do a really good job. And that was quite nerve wracking. And I knew that she was nervous, and all that shit was going on. So, but it's not really nerves. Like, I know I can do it now. So I'm more like, I have to take a moment. Yeah. I go and stand at the side, and then I kind of pump myself up and go, right, okay.
Bring it away.
Yeah, because that's something else that Jade told me was, we were in Edinburgh a couple of years ago, and she was doing the sound for me. And she came in one day and she went, right, you go away, go and stand out the way, because what you're doing, you talk to everyone when all your mates are coming in, and you're talking to them all before you start your show. So you've already been talking for 10 minutes before the show starts. And so you're expending all that energy, and you need the energy for your show. And from that moment, I'm like, oh yeah, and now I have better gigs because I have a moment where I go off. I just gather myself and go, right, okay, cool. I'm going to say that. Cool. You just sort of, and bring your breathing down a little bit. You kind of got to just like deep breaths. Cool, got it. And then you're ready for when the MC or whoever, says, "Well, up to the stage, Rich Wilson."
Yeah.
So it's that really.
It's fascinating because whenever I go to Always Be Comedy live, I'm always on the front row, and when the lights go down, I look to my left, and there's James Gill psyching himself up. Yeah. Ready to go for the audience, and he's a different person when he's on stage because
he's quite high energy, isn't he? So he's got to ramp himself
up, and it's interesting that you say that. How do you remember all your routines when you're on stage?
I don't know. I have no idea to this day.
Do you not have pointers in your head or notes?
Well, the stuff's always evolving, and you move it around as well. You kind of like you always move your closing gag. You'll move that to start, and because you always want to be better, you want to always improve. And if you there's so many comedians that stick to the same 20 because they know it works, and it's just not fun. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
I want it to be different every time, and I don't know. I tell you what happened though, because we had the lockdown, and so none of us gigged for ages.
Yeah.
And so we had from like March till September or something like that, or whenever it was, we got back into it briefly. And I remember standing there. I got booked for a gig in Southend, and I'm stood there, and I just went, I don't remember any of it, and I didn't. I ended up having to just riff on what was happening in the garden space where we were at. I couldn't remember. Or I'd get into a bit, and then I'd go, well, that's the punchline I've just said. So what's the rest of it? So I don't know. There is something to be said. You need to be on stage constantly, and that's how it sticks in your head. You like an athlete. You need to keep doing it. Ken
Dodd comes to mind.
Ken Dodd is still he's still gigging somewhere, isn't he? That is still.
I saw him many times. I once got into an argument with him at Crewe. It wasn't an argument. It was an argument with two old women sitting behind me about a newspaper in Crewe. I was living in Crewe at the time. And, he was trying to tell jokes about newspaper, and his act wasn't going well in the first half. And he said, what's the newspaper in Crewe? And I yelled out, it's the Chronicle. And these two old ladies behind me, no, it's the Mail. And I turned around and went, no, it's the Chronicle. And I went, no, it's the Mail. And Ken Dodd was floored. And he looked at me and he went, what's your name, sir? And I told him. And he said, where are you from? I said, Carlisle. He said, I'll see you Sunday. The women are right, aren't they? It's the Mail. But he's a classic example of trying to change his act, like you say, but just being on stage for so long. And I think, again, it all boils down to experience. The more you do, the better a comedian you are.
For sure. Yeah.
You won the 2018 Best International Act at the New Zealand Comedy Festival.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Describe this experience. Are you a fan of comedy competitions? Do you think they are necessary for the comedy career?
Well, do you know what? When I started, I thought you had to be more pure. So there was all this talk of competitions and comedy courses, and I was like, no, a real comedian wouldn't do those things. A real comedian would just hone his craft and do the gigs and do this and just does it on his own, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out nearly everyone's done a comedy course. Everyone's been in a competition. Mickey Flanagan, Greg Davies, loads of people have done courses or competitions. And so I really shot myself in the foot by not doing any, and then wondered why no one gave a shit about me.
That's not
So never heard of me. So I didn't do any of that. I made it really hard for myself. So, and then with New Zealand, it just I was staying with Eddie Brimson in Edinburgh in 2014. Yeah, 2014, and he was talking about us doing a double act, and we kind of mucked around with it, and maybe. And then we went to Melbourne the following year, and we messed around in Melbourne doing the festival there. But we were also booked to do New Zealand, and Eddie had booked the whole thing. And so in Melbourne, we didn't get not many people turn up. It's really difficult to sell your own shows in Melbourne. You'll do the compilations and you'll make money, but getting people to your actual show is really hard.
Right.
Unless it's got the title Britain in it, or British or English or something like that for some reason. So anyway, so we mess around in Melbourne for a month, and then we go to New Zealand, and we go and sat in Auckland. We sat down by the water's edge, and we went, right, what are we going to do? Because we can't just do what we've been doing. We can't just dick around. This is proper now. Because with New Zealand Festival, there isn't any fringe. There's no free fringe. It's like you're in the festival. They've booked you. They've brought you out. You're like it's like doing the Pleasance. It's like doing the Gilded Balloon. You're doing proper venues like the Classic and all that. And so you have to bring your A game. And so we went out and we ended up smashing it. We sold out the Bruce Mason Centre. We sold out the Classic 2 nights or 3 nights, whatever it was. And it just went from there. So now they then booked me again to come back the following year to MC, and they booked me to do something else. And I just had such a good time. I just fell in love with the place. I went out there like 3 or 4 times, I think.
Yeah.
And then I came back. No, nothing was said to me either. It was like, oh, it was lovely to see you. Well done, blah blah. It wasn't until I came back and they went, oh, it was Christmas, and they went, oh, you've won this, the best international act. And I'm like, what? Carey Marks had won it before. Nish Kumar had won it before.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well
so I'm
deserved.
like, wow, man. So yeah, really, something like that as well makes you feel like you're part of it. You go, oh, I'm actually supposed to be doing this.
Did it raise your profile as a result of winning it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. People started to take you more seriously.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, I mean, all of these things, for any new comedians who might be listening to this, do the competitions. It can't help. It can't hurt at all.
Yeah.
Do them all, you know.
Let's move on to the Edinburgh Fringe. The Edinburgh Festival, I go there every year. I've been going there since 2005. And the first year that I went there, I thought to myself, I'm going to do this every year. And it's become my annual holiday. It's my holiday. I go for a week and I see about 50 shows in a week.
Wow.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
What was your first Edinburgh Fringe like?
The first time I went up would have been 2006.
Right.
I just lost my job in this t-shirt place.
Right.
And Darren Martin had already messaged me and said, look, I need flyers and promo people in Edinburgh if you fancy it. And I said, no, I'm working. Anyway, then I lost that job. And so I messaged him, I went, is that job still going? And he went, yeah. So I get on a train, I go straight to Edinburgh. I get there, it's like 7 o'clock at night. And I go into what is now the Voodoo Rooms. That's where I'm meeting him.
Know it well, yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah, sorry. He goes, your accommodation isn't going to be ready for 2 days. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'm already here. So I ended up
sleeping in the road.
So I rang my partner at the time, again, Marilyn, who I was with.
Yeah.
I rang her and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's no accommodation. I haven't got the money either. So she ended up ringing round, and Jane Hardy, that used to book Up the Creek, was up there. And so she said, oh, yeah, come crash here. So I crashed with them for a couple of days, which was, so they saved my life. So then I'm flyering for people, and it was hard work. It's hard work. Anyone going to Edinburgh, get someone else to fly for you, because it's horrible. It's like people look at you like you've given them a handful of dog feces.
There's so many comedians I see put flyers into my hand.
There's absolutely no point.
God bless you.
Yeah. Rob Beckett told me this. He said there's no point in standing on street corners all day and all night just giving out flyers, because no one's gonna come to your show. Yeah. An hour before, go out and have a quick run round. Do you fancy this, fancy that? Because there are a lot of people just wandering around, and they go, "Oh yeah, we're going to do that for an hour," but to stand there all day,
that's awful. That's half the fun of it, though, because whenever I go up there with a lot of friends, and I always send them an extremely detailed spreadsheet
Yeah, I bet
which
you do.
is completely new comedians, storytellers, jokers. You know, it's got all gamut of comedy, and they come back and they say, "Can you do this every year? Because we absolutely love it."
Yeah.
And that's the magic of it. Just if you just walk into a place, if you've got a spare hour and see the next big thing or see a very funny comic,
Yeah.
it makes my day, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not only supporting the big names, but you also support the new comedians as well.
You can't, but what happens is people go up to Edinburgh thinking they're going to be the next big thing. And unless you've got a little bit of heat behind you before you go, people aren't going to know who you are. You're almost starting again. There is a difference between being a club comedian and someone that does the festivals. So when I went up there in 2014 with my first show, I was in the venue that was the other side of the Meadows because I liked the name. I didn't know where it was, so I did that. I was on at 7:30 at night, and that's the thing as well. If you're a new comedian, don't do the evening. Go do it during the day, because all the big names have got their shows in the evening, so people will buy tickets for those. They're not going to bother coming to see you. And I forgot to put the time and the dates on my flyers, so I had to write on it every day the time and the date.
Mate.
Yeah, it was so destroying. And I had half a show. I'd gone up there with half a show. God. It wasn't. Yes, it was. I had really learned the hard way.
We went up there one year, and I was with a friend of mine who had to review all for a paper, and I'm sitting there with her, and there was us, and there was a Scotsman in the front row, and the comedian walked on. It was a little tiny place, and he looked and he said, "There's only 3 of you here. Thank you so much for coming along. I'm not going to bother with the show tonight. I'll buy you all the drink for coming. Thank you very much."
Oh yeah,
And the bloke in the front row went, "No, I've paid £6. I want my hour."
Oh God.
And the show has to go on.
I've actually had it the other way, where I've gone on with the show and I'm gone, right, like you say, the show must go on. And then at the end, one of the blokes has gone, "He could have just bought us a pint and had a chat." Yeah.
Well,
so I've had it the other way.
I've seen you many times live and online, including your brilliant solo show, Death Becomes Her, at the Fringe in 2019. I was determined to go and see it because I knew it would be a good hour, and it was superb.
Thanks, mate.
I've also seen you hosting the Boat Show quiz online. I wish you'd bring that back. I used to love those in lockdown, and I've seen you many times, but always be comedy and other gigs as well. Can you tell me about your writing process, if you've got one, and where do you get your ideas from to construct a show?
I don't sit down and write.
Right.
I know there are people that do that. They'll do it. They'll sit and write for 2 hours. There's that whole thing about writing for 2 hours, and most of it goes in the bin. They've got one joke, and I can't really do that. My brain won't allow me to sit down and do that because I get too distracted. So I have to be. What will happen is I'll be wandering around, and then I'll be hit with some kind of, that's a really good idea, and then I'll write it down in my phone. It's normally in my phone.
Yeah.
Or on the back of my hand, or wherever, and then that idea kind of gestates and becomes something, and then because I MC quite a bit, I can go on at a gig and go right, and then just say that idea, and then it'll either get a laugh or it won't get a laugh, and then I'll go, well, I thought that was funny, I'm clearly not, and then I'll kind of write it when I'm in front of everybody. And do it that way. And
some comedians do that just off the cuff. It's not off the cuff, but you're working it out as you're going along. Yeah.
I had this one joke about killing a chicken with my car, and I did it. Yeah, I did it. It's a story. It's a real story. But I remember I did it once and it got a laugh. So I'm like, there's something there. And they did it another 3 times and everyone just stared at me. But then I went back on because Andy Parsons had been on as well, and he did a dead chicken joke.
Right.
And they didn't laugh at that either.
Dead chickens were in that night.
Well, that was it. So I was like, well, you're all clearly vegans and you're not happy with this us slaughtering chickens. So that's what I mean. So that becomes a bit, you know, and I think there's the best thing for a comedian is stage time. You have to be on stage as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
It's fascinating. You are regarded by many a top comedian as one of the UK's best MCs. Do you prefer comparing to performing a solo routine?
I think I like doing both actually, and it's happened organically. I haven't really gone right. I'm not going to MC anymore. I get booked for whatever people want to book me for, and I do love MCing. There's a real joy that I get from the end of the night when every actor's had a really good time, all the audience have had a good time, and you've helped kind of create that. By
incredible, isn't it?
You know what I mean? And you've got to know as an MC. Like if you're before you bring the next actor, and I've learned this the hard way as well. You know, you could be smashing it, absolutely smashing it. You got to learn to stop and then bring on the next actor. There's so many comedians that I've seen that they'll be smashing it as the MC and they're really going for it, and then they'll do too much time, and then they'll go, oh, you know, and it kind of ruins the night. And I've done that. I've been guilty of that. Right. So you have to. It's a skill to sort of stop that, because of course you're having a good time, so you get swept up in it, but you've got to remember you're there to build the night. It's not all about you. And so I get a real buzz from at the end of the night, and I imagine James Gill and people like that get that as well when they come away and the whole night's been brilliant, everyone's buzzing. There's a real sense of pride from doing that.
Brilliant.
So I love that. But then I love doing a solo show. I love doing Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I like the other night, my new show, I Hope This Email Finds You Well, that I did online. That was exhilarating. It was all brand new stuff, and it went really well. And
I'm looking forward to seeing you do that live, mate.
Well, I've put a thing out today, and I've said to people, if you've got a weird and wonderful venue, whatever it is, let me know, and I'll come and do the show in your little wherever it is, just wherever.
You could play my home city of Carlisle. I'll come and see you.
I think I've been to Carlisle once. I went to Carlisle once. I didn't realise how far it is. It's so far. It's the furthest I've been, and it's not Scotland. You know.
Well, that's it. It's known as the border city between England and Scotland. Yeah. Anyway, do you have any ambitions to be a comedian? Do you have any ambitions as a comedian? Do you have any? So, in other words, would you like to be on television? Would you like your own chat show? Would you like to? Would you like to write more? Would you like to be in a double act?
I've got well, I think I love doing what we do. Yeah. I love gigging, and I'll always, all I want to do is improve and be better and things like that. And I want to do my own shows. I want to be able to take it around little venues and do that. That'd be nice. Yeah. If there's television, then that's fine. I'll take if it comes along, but I'm not seeking it. It's a very different thing, and I whatever comes along, I'll do. But I'm not really chasing that. But that's just not. If anyone's listening, it doesn't mean I don't want to. But keep it. I think I want to do. I've got ideas that I'm working on. I've got book ideas, and I've got a TV show idea that I'm working on, and
good lad.
And then I want to keep doing stuff. That's all I want to do. So if I'm able to do that, then great.
Brilliant. This last 18 months has been unbelievable, really awful. How have you found online gigs, if you've done many, as opposed to live stand-up comedy?
Well, to begin with, they were awful. They were because none of us knew what we were doing. Yeah. And so there was no such thing as like this. Now they've got the front row for Zoom gigs or whatever it is. So there was none of that. So you're literally doing a gig. You're trying to make your laptop laugh, and that's awful. And it just, I just remember the first few times just sat there going, oh, what am I doing? Because you have to change completely what you do, because your rhythms from when you're doing live stuff completely change, because you're reliant on the laughter. You kind of know where the laughter should go. And you're kind of bouncing along on the audience, but when the audience aren't there, you're just bouncing along on nothing, and it's hard.
Strange.
But then you work it out. I worked out early on that you just have to do like a monologue, and so you hope that people are, if they're not laughing, they're enjoying listening to you, doing your stuff. And then it just got to a point. I just got used to it, just being able to just sort of chat. Really, it becomes a conversation, and. I'll lean on the thing and I go, fucking hell, this is weird, isn't it? And like, I'm effing and jeffing and I'm in your house. It's that you kind of have to work with your surroundings. And so I really like the Zoom gigs now. I quite like them. I can't wait to get back out and do real gigs, but I'll be happy to keep doing the Zoom ones. They're good fun. They're good fun. There's more interaction as well, because you've got people messaging you in the chat, or they might heckle you a bit, and it's more personal and immediate, I feel, with the Zoom.
I totally agree with you. If online comedy hadn't happened during lockdown, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been at a loose end. So I've always regarded it as like a super substitution to the real thing. When it first started, you're right. There was I was sitting here laughing at a silent screen. I thought I was going to get taken away. Just looking forward.
But it took not only comedians working out how to do it, but it took promoters really got stuck in, and they really worked out how to get the best out of this new medium for us. And so people like Always Be, Just the Tonic, Nice and Spiky, loads of promoters kind of worked out that you needed more than one person running it. They worked out that there's like the green room bit, and then there's the audience bit, and then there's and they really worked it out, and they worked it out perfectly. And so now it's become a thing, and I think it will be around for a bit. I don't think it will just disappear.
I think you're right. I think when the clubs open again, there will be a camera streaming the show to people who can't get to the gig, and there's all sorts of possibilities for it.
But it's funny, I said this before it all happened. I was up the creek, funnily enough, and I spoke to Paul Webber, who's sadly no longer with us, bless him, and I said to him, you should do live from up the creek. You should do it with a couple of cameras, and then we just get everyone to agree that this is going out live, and put it on YouTube or whatever. And then he went, that's a good idea, and then nothing came of it. And then, like I say, sadly he passed away. But then all of a sudden, that's what we're doing. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. A couple of cameras, and it gives people that have got kids something to watch. And I think it's got something.
I think you're right, but like you say, I am so looking forward to getting back to live, because I love to go out on a Saturday night, have a few beers, and then laugh myself daft at a comedian on stage.
But this is it. It's the same with comedians. We love that. You're putting on your best gear, you're getting ready. I remember Noel Faulkner at the Comedy Cats just saying, like, you have to make an effort. But I remember seeing interviews with James Brown, and James Brown would turn up wearing a suit. And he was like, because I have respect for the person that's interviewing me, I have respect for the audience. You've made an effort, I need to make an effort as well. You've paid money to see me, and then I rock up looking like I've just fallen out of bed. And it, like Noel Faulkner at the CAF always said, it's like, when you're on stage, it's 90% show business, 10% business. When you're off, it's 90% business, 10% show business. And I always sort of remembered that. I'm like, that makes sense. You've just got to, this is your job, and you should get dressed for your job, get ready and go. And I think that's what a lot of comedians struggled with this lockdown, is that we didn't just lose gigs, we lost our community, we lost our family, we're all a little bit weird. We don't really fit in everyday life, in normal society. And so we go to gigs and we see each other and we silently understand each other and we go, yeah, you're weird. They go, yeah, you're weird as well, but we're weird together. Yeah, and it's just a nice safe space for us to be doing what we're doing, and I think that's why a lot of us struggle.
Thank God
man.
you're there, my friend. Thank God you're there, cheering
I love
everybody
it.
up.
I love it, mate, and long may it continue.
Very much so. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Oh man, so many.
Yeah,
I love Dave Allen.
Yeah.
Dave Allen to me is the perfect storyteller because his timing is just so laid back and perfect. You know, he didn't rush to the punchline. It was excellent. Yeah. Richard Pryor, Bob Newhart. I love Bob Newhart. To me, him doing those one-sided phone conversations is just second to none. I mean, the driving instructor and to Walter Riley and all that. Just you know, the man's excellent. I love that. And Tony Hancock.
Yes.
Who else? There's loads, man. Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr. Yeah. I love Bill Burr's. Bill Burr doesn't give a shit. What he's saying is right. It's like, no, mate, you're right, man. Yeah. Sarah Silverman, I think he's a phenomenal talent. Sarah Millican, brilliant. Who else do I love? Sean McLaughlin, I love him.
He's just been on this.
He's brilliant. Ivo Graham, Dane Baptiste. I mean, there's so many.
So many of them.
So when I still love to watch comedy, even though I don't get to go to as many gigs as I'd like. When I'm on with someone that I admire, I'm always pleased. I get to watch you and learn a bit. And
you answered my next question because which was going to be like me. Do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience? I will go.
I won't necessarily go to a club gig really, unless it's someone on that. But outside the box in Kingston used to be good for. Seeing people. I'm gutted. There was one night I was going to go, and I'm like, I can't be asked. I don't care. I'll go another time. And Robin Williams was on.
Oh, mate!
And I missed it, and I'm gutted. So gutted.
Wow.
But even telling you now, it breaks my heart.
I was very fortunate to see Bill Hicks in Manchester.
Oh wow!
He was incredible.
Yeah.
And I've seen Steve Martin and superb. But Robin Williams, when you walk down the stairs of the Comedy Store and you see all the posters, he just walked in and he did 10 minutes and they were like, oh my God.
Wow, man.
It's incredible. The reason why I've asked those two questions is that there's a section in my blog called The Ones That Got Away, and I've written about the 25 comedians who have either passed on or I haven't had a chance to see. And top of the tree for me was Morecambe and Wise. I would have loved to have seen them.
Oh yeah,
But Dave Allen is up there as well. I almost had a chance to go and see him when he played London, and I wish I had seen him because, like you say, the storytelling is extraordinary.
Yeah,
he's so effortlessly good at doing what he does.
And little stories like the glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't whiskey; it was champagne.
Yeah. I love that. I love the clock story he tells, where he said we wake up to the clock, we go to work to the clock, we do everything to the clock, and then when you retire, what do they give you? A fucking clock.
I like
Brilliant.
the one.
It's just perfect.
I like the one he said about his glasses, and he keeps forgetting his glasses, and he can't find his glasses anywhere. And his daughter's like, "Oh, for God's sake, Daddy, your glasses are on the mantel shelf." He's like, all right. So he writes a little note. Goes, your glasses are on the mantel shelf. He said, but then I find the note. I can't read it. I ain't got my glasses.
Yeah.
And it just it's good proper jokes. That's
the thing about writing about them all, because it brings back so many memories of what you were doing and where you were, of course.
Yeah. I'm gutted about Robin Williams. I wish I'd seen him. That would have been amazing. Yeah. I normally I'll go to like the Soho Theatre and see people, and I saw Alfie Brown's show.
Brilliant.
Not last year, the year before. Oh my God, it was astonishingly good. It was so good. The man, it was really beautifully written, brilliantly performed. So I'll go to the Soho Theatre and see like Alexis Sale and people like that. You know,
what a genius that man is.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, we were at a thing a couple of years ago, Christmases ago, and Alexis Sale was there, and I was outside talking to him and Phil Ellis, and I was a bit pissed, and I was having the gig of my life. I was making Alexis Sale laugh his head off, and then suddenly I got up and I went, "I'll see you later. This has been cool," and then I left. And then Phil Ellis messaged me. He goes, "I saw what you did." He goes, "You were having such a good time, but then you suddenly went, I'm going to make a dick of myself now," and you just got up and left. So you didn't make and that's what I did. I kind of went, "Oh, this is too good. I'm going to go. I'm going to go now."
Oh God!
So, I'm not bragging. It was just a really good time.
Talking of Alexis Sale, we were very, very lucky to see Rick Mail in Carlisle on tour, and he was extraordinary. The music was playing. It was the Muppet Show mixed in with the theme from Dallas. And then he jumped on stage and he went, "Ladies and gentlemen of the Carl." He kept calling the Carlisle audience the Carl. His trousers exploded and then he threw somebody out, which was just extraordinary. And his support was Andy de la Tour, who was at Edinburgh.
Oh wow, yeah,
Edinburgh about 2 years ago, and he featured him at the start of his show. And afterwards, I was chatting to him about it, and he said, "Oh mate," he said, "you were in an audience for him. It was extraordinary." And that's the magic of writing the blog, I suppose, because you can write down all these extraordinary memories of wonderful times. You know, it's right. Just before we go, and my friend, I have so enjoyed this. I could talk to you all night. I really could. Is there anything else you would like to say? Where can people find you on social media? Have you got any planned gigs? Please tell people about your podcast, which is fantastic.
Thanks, mate. There's gigs booked in. We're starting to book club gigs. They're coming back, which is good.
Brilliant.
There's gonna, like I say, today I put the word out to try and get a little tour going. Yeah. So that'll be out, and I'll let people know. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I am Rich Wilson. Yeah. I'm on Facebook as well, but I don't really look at that much. I've got I've got a podcast called Insane in the Men Brain and Insane in the Fem Brain. And we've also got coming up, we've got Insane in the Them Brain, where I talk to people who identify as non-binary. Right. So it's all about people. The jumping off point's mental health, but it kind of goes wherever, and people can take from it whatever they want. And we've had Heston Blumenthal, David Baddiel, Hannah Rankin, the world #1 boxer, and we've had some incredible guests. So you know, it's worth checking out. Yeah. And
tell us about, you're a DJ as well, and Islington radio show.
Yeah, I've got a DJ. I've got a radio show on Islington Radio called The Tuned Up Time Machine,
which is brilliant.
Thanks, mate. It's on Mixcloud at the minute, but I'm sure it'll go on to something else later on. It's just starting out, so. But it's really good. I get 2 hours to just play what I want and dick around, and it's well worth your time. And all you need to do is download the Mixcloud app, and then you've got a raft of shows at your fingertips.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
Well, my friend, I for one cannot wait to see you again live. I'm really looking forward to seeing your new show. It sounds amazing. Can't wait to show it to you. Yeah. And you've made me laugh so much over the years, continuously. You're one of my favourite comedians. As I say, whenever you're on a bill, I always smile and think I'm going to have a great time, and I always do. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rich. It's been a pleasure.
All the best, my friend. You take care.
All right, mate.